says, Jesus knew the wants of the soul. Pomp, riches, and honor cannot satisfy the heart. If any man thirst, let him come unto me. The rich, the poor, the high, the low are alike welcome. He promised to relieve the burdened mind, to comfort the sorrowing, and to give hope to the despondent. Sunday, the home life of Jesus. So I feel like often we sort of just gloss over the fact that Jesus had brothers and sisters. And here in Sunday, we talk about how they were sort of active in his life as well. They wanted to partake in only his glory, but also in only his accomplishments.
Right.
Yes, brother.
Continue.
Okay. So here we see in John 7:5 it says, "For neither did his brethren believe in him." So I believe, not sure what verse it is, but it is a verse in the Bible that says that no prophet is in his own town,
right,
in his own homeland. So that was his challenge that he faced in his own home. He faced not only the townspeople that had known him when he was growing up, but also his family, his brothers. Let's see. Brother Adam, if you could read part of the second note where it says his brothers.
Let's see. The second note.
Yes, on Sunday.
Sunday.
Paragraph, yes.
The second paragraph?
Yes, it starts with his brothers.
Got it. Thank you. His brothers, as the sons of Joseph were called, cited by the rabbis, they insisted, thank you, that the traditions must be heeded, as if they were the requirements of God. They even regarded the precepts of men more highly than the word of God. And they were greatly annoyed at the clear penetration, thank you, of Jesus in distinguishing between the false and the true. His strict obedience of the law of God they commended as stubbornness. They were surprised at the knowledge and wisdom he showed in answering the rabbis. They knew that he had not received instruction from the wise men, yet they could not but see he was an instructor to them. They recognized that his education was of a higher type than their own, but they did not discern that he had access to the tree of life, a source of knowledge of which they were ignorant.
Thank you. So here we have a lot to unpack. The brothers of Jesus, or the sons of Joseph as they were called, they wanted to get ahead in life. I feel like they had a lot of drive, and they acknowledged that Jesus, he was their eldest brother, so they did acknowledge that he had, wisdom that they themselves couldn't understand. But they were only trying to understand him through their eyes. So it wasn't capable of them to understand his true character, his true mission, if they kept focusing on the worldly things and siding with the rabbis specifically. So if we go to Monday, if anybody has any comments?
Well, I want to comment a little bit. Here, it says, that even, Jesus' brothers, they don't believe in him. And we can understand this, how, we can say, okay, we don't know, what age, because these brothers, it was older than Jesus. They've been older than Jesus.
Oh, they were?
Yeah, it was Joseph's.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was only Joseph's sons.
Oh, okay, the
Yeah,
sons
yeah,
of Joseph, yes.
Yeah, remember
Because-
he was.
oh.
¿Cómo se dice?
He was a widower.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they don't believe in Jesus, because they're always looking, like at the little brother.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, you're the little brother. You don't know nothing. Whatever you are teaching is good, but we're not interested.
Mhm.
But Jesus, he was instructed, by Mary, his mom,
Mhm.
and we know, that Mary, since the angel, appeared to her, she said, this is a special child. This is gonna be a special, he's gonna be the savior. That's why she spent all the time trying to teach him the right things, try to do the right, teaching to do the right things always. In the other side, we have his brothers, which are the opposite. They don't want to be obedient, because they've been raised different, from Joseph. Even if he was a faithful man too, we don't know, how they were educated, because since the beginning, they said that they don't believe in Jesus. Basically they don't follow most of them. But one interesting thing that is they know that is that they have access to the tree of life, which was Jesus, but they are not interested. Sometimes we have also the tree of life. We can reach it. This is the Bible. Is the truth. The spirit of prophecy, everything, but we are not interested. And when somebody came over here and said, "Oh, look, brother, I just read this, the spirit of prophecy," we hear it, but we are not like, "Oh, really?" We're, "Oh, okay," because we are not enjoying, from the same tree. We are not eating, the fruit. It's the same, when somebody came, from out of the church, and they said, "Oh, wow, brother, I'm really happy to be in this church. We are doing missionary work. We are doing this and that." And when you are not doing it, you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah," because you don't feel it. You are not participating, from the same spirit. And that's what we have to do too. To try to eat. As the last lesson said, we have to digest. All that.
Digest, yes. Yes, brother.
Okay, so it says in the Bible that I'm going to paraphrase, when the mother of Jesus, they were going to the Jerusalem for some kind of festival, and when they came back, they forgot Jesus, and they're like, "Oh, we forgot Jesus." And when they came back like a couple of days later, and they found Jesus at the temple, and this, mind you, this is a 12-year-old boy who is teaching all these grown men about God. Alright?
Yeah.
Yes. So Christ had been an example to his brothers even as a child, and they chose, as Brother Adam said, not to try to understand or take him seriously. In Monday, the sons of Joseph. So we were talking a little bit more about them. What suggestion did Christ's brothers make to him in anticipation of the annual Feast of Tabernacles? In here we see this in John 7:3-4. Brother Gerald, if you could read that for us?
Yes. John 7, verses 3. His brethren therefore said unto him, Depart hence, and go unto Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. For there is no man that doeth anything in secret, and he seeketh, and he himself seeketh to be known openly. If thou do these things, show thyself to the world. I'd like to comment on that. I might see it in the next paragraph here. But no, they didn't necessarily believe, but they kind of hoped he might be the Messiah. They took pride in the fact that people looked up to Jesus, but they didn't quite grasp it, but they still hoped that it was possible. That was different. Those were their feelings.
that as well with the disciples, because we have to understand that they had a different mindset
Right.
back then. So back then they were thinking, if the Messiah is gonna come, he's gonna be the one that delivers us from the Romans. So he's gonna be a literal savior, not a savior for their souls, because nobody at the time was concerned with that. The Pharisees weren't concerned with that. Nobody had understood that prophecy for what it was, that it was a spiritual saving. And so his brothers, as well as his disciples, were hoping that, hey, okay, if he is the Messiah, then he's going to deliver us.
Right.
And if he's going to deliver us, then we're going to have a place
Right.
in his kingdom. And we see that as well with the disciples, specifically with the sons of thunder, that their mother came up to Jesus and was like, well, which one's going to be your right hand? So everybody was expecting this from Jesus, specifically his disciples, but also his brothers. So they were like, okay, let's get a little bit closer to him and guide him in the right direction, because he needs guiding, because he hasn't done anything yet that is worthwhile in their minds. ¿Quieres saber de eso?
No, por los milagros que hacía, ellos decían, bueno, si él es, vamos a tener, como dices tú, un lugar especial, porque somos sus hermanos.
What she was saying was, because of the miracles that he had done, they believed in him more, that if he is the Messiah, he has done these miracles.
Y ellos mismos lo empujaban a que fueran a diferentes lugares, que no nomás fueran en las orillas, que se presentara, que lo vieran todos. Pero tenían ese celo también.
So, what
Como
she was
hermanos,
saying
¿no?
was that they wanted to push him, that if they're going to have a place.
Envidia ese.
¿Será? Porque tenían...
Puedes traducir. Okay, so what she was saying was that, they had seen the miracles, and they wanted to, and if they were going to have a place in his kingdom, they wanted to push him in the right direction, so push him towards the big cities where he would make an impact with his miracles, because so far he's been only going to smaller towns and villages. And his brother were most likely jealous or envious as well. Oh, okay, that's it. So, let's see, where were we? I will read a little bit of the note. It says, Christ's brothers thought it a mistake for him to alienate the great and learned men of the nation. They felt that these men must be in the right, and that Jesus was at fault in placing himself in antagonism to them. They had witnessed his blameless life, and they thought they did not rank themselves with his disciples. They had been deeply impressed by his work. His popularity in Galilee was gratifying to their ambition. So here we see they were ambitious men,
Right.
trying to profit off of this. They still hoped that he would give an evidence of his power, which would lead the Pharisees to see that he was what he claimed to be. But we see that Christ had already been performing miracles. But what type of miracles was he performing? He was helping, I guess, essentially like poor people. He was reaching out, he was feeding the poor, he was helping the poor. So, by what I understand by they saying here that he would give an evidence of his power to the Pharisees, it had to be something, I'm guessing, more military related. To like win them something against the Romans, so they would be like, oh, okay, he has come to deliver us from the Romans. We're okay with that.
Right.
But he wasn't. He was showing them what was wrong with their teaching, what they were practicing in their life. And in question B, it says, describe the problem that has always been faced by the needy. So this was Christ's fault, that he was too nice to everyone. And then Psalms 86:14. Mami, you can read that?
¿Dónde está?
Estamos en...
Él hace Salmo. ¿Dónde ves?
Salmo 86, 14.
Salmo 66, 14. Haces que ya lo veo.
She will be reading Psalms 86:14.
Dice, oh Dios, soberbios se levantaron contra mí y conspiración de hombres violentos ha buscado mi alma y no te pusieron delante de sí.
Thank you. So we see here that proud men are always going to be the antagonists of the meek because they're searching for two different things.
Right, right.
These brothers of Jesus reasoned from the selfish motive so often found in the hearts of those ambitious for display. This spirit was the ruling spirit of the world. They were offended because, instead of seeking a temporal throne, Christ had declared himself to be the bread of life. They were greatly disappointed when so many of his disciples forsook him. They themselves turned from him to escape the cross of acknowledging that what his works revealed, that he was the sent of God. So far we've only really focused on the immediate disciples, so the 12 disciples, but a lot of people have started to follow Christ about, just following him about. And as people were realizing that he wasn't going to be doing anything to free them from the Romans, they got discouraged, and so did his brothers. So they left him because they saw that he was losing power with the people, something that he would need to win over the Romans. Any comments?
I think that for that time, probably the majority of those people, his people, expected him to come and take over the Roman kingdom. And that's what their hopes were, their ambitions. So when they were looking for the Messiah, they were looking for the new king of the world, this world like that, instead of the Romans. And so basically that was it. They wanted to be rich now and have slaves or servants under them. And they just couldn't handle the fact that that's not who Jesus was supposed to be doing.
And Christ, he was giving them something greater than just freedom from their oppressors at the time. He was giving them something that would lead them to riches in heaven, of a peaceful and happy life. And they were too focused on their problems to realize that there's something greater out there for them, that Christ was providing for them.
Eso iba a decir yo.
Oh, that's what she was going to say.
You know, we have that same problem today, even among our immediate groups, Seventh-day Adventists and the Reform movement. There are some of us that feel that if I go to church and study, I'll become rich, I'll have a new car, and that's not necessarily the case. Some will be successful, and some won't be that financially established. But that's generally the way the whole world is. But there's a lot of people that come to church so the guy can bless them with a bigger car, a bigger home, things like that. But we still have that same problem.
Yes, and I remember Brother Boris was mentioning something that, even as a church, we're like, oh, we have to grow it exponentially, try to get people in the church, to fill the church, and, as mega churches,
Right.
everybody wants and to be part, but there's no fellowship in that. There's no real connection with Christ and with his people. It's too big of a
entity.
Yeah, and it's too big of an entity, and then also the financial aspects. It's going to become more of a business down the road. Like those mega churches. They're
a lot
really
of lawyers
flashy.
and doctors go there, so I
Yeah.
want to go there too.
So yeah, I want to go there too because I'm going to get rich as well. So it's a whole. Christ's blessings are of our soul, not specifically of our own riches right here. We should be working for riches in heaven, so we shouldn't be as concerned with. It is a big stress in our lives, financial stability and all that. But if we have faith in Christ, if our souls are at peace, then Christ is going to provide what we need.
Right.
In Tuesday,
Puedo decir.
yes.
famosa.
In Santana, where there's a very famous church.
Se llama la Catedral de Cristal.
It's called the Cathedral of Crystal.
Y hay gente que dice, yo estoy yendo a esa iglesia.
And there's people who say, well, oh, I'm going to that church.
Pero ¿de qué te sirve?
But what is that of help to you?
Sí, digamos, vas y es como la iglesia católica, vas y te sientas y nada, no, ¿cómo te dice? No puedes, nomás lo que te dicen, no te,
No buscas.
no te incitan, y no te incitan a que veas tú por ti mismo, ¿sí?
So in that church, people are like, oh, like I go to that church. But really, they just go on Sundays to listen, but they never search for themselves if what they're
Right.
listening is true.
Is this a popular church to go to?
Following popularity.
Yeah.
And Tuesday, controversy over Jesus. What contradictory opinions were raised about Jesus? So in John 7:11 through 12, Adam? Oh, yes, Brother Adam.
Oh yeah, I was gonna volunteer to read.
Yes, please.
Okay, then the Jews sought him at the feast and said, what? Where is he? And there was much murmuring among the people concerning him, for some said, he is a good man. Others said, nay, but he deceiveth the people.
Thank you. So these were the two ideas going around about Jesus. Either he's a good man or he just deceives people. And so we see that a lot of people had, left him as well. So people were like, oh, well, why did they leave him? There was a lot of talk about this in general. And question B, how did Jesus silence these contradictory opinions concerning himself? Any thoughts or?
I'll read it.
Oh, yes, please.
John 7:14 through 18.
Mm-hmm.
Now about the midst of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and taught. And the Jews reveled, saying, how knoweth this man letters, having never learned? Jesus answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. If any man will to do his will, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself. In 18. He that speaketh of himself seeketh his own glory. In Luke 4:23.
Oh,
32.
32, okay. Thank
yeah,
you.
Luke 4:32.
And they were astonished at his doctrine, for his word was with power.
Thank you. In John 7:14-18, there was a second part to that. And it says, but he that seeketh his glory that sent him, the same is true, and no unrighteousness is in him. So Christ was answering that question, how do you know so much? Well, he was like, if the character of Christ is within you, then you will be able to understand these testimonies, as the last part said. But he that seeketh his glory that sent him, so not for our own gain, as part of the disciples that had been following him and his brothers wanted. It was the righteousness of Christ that he was seeking. And I believe we will read this verse later. Let me see. Oh, yes, we will. Okay. So, in the midst of the feast, when the excitement concerning him was at its height, he entered the court of the temple in the presence of the multitude. Because of his absence from the feast, it had been urged
that he dare not place himself in the power of the priests and rulers. All were surprised at his presence. Every voice was hushed. All wondered at the dignity and courage of his bearing in the midst of powerful enemies who were thirsting for his life. Standing thus, the center of attention to that vast strong throng, Jesus addressed them as no man had ever done. His words showed a knowledge of the laws and institutions of Israel, of the sacrificial service and the teachings of the prophets, far exceeding that of the priests and rabbis. He broke through the barriers of formalism and tradition. The scenes of the future life seemed outspread before him. As one who beheld the unseen, he spoke of the earthly and the heavenly, the human and the divine, with positive authority. His words were most clear and convincing. And again, as at Capernaum, the people were astonished at his teaching, for his word was with power. All wondered at his knowledge of the law and the prophecies. I'd like to make a statement before we continue. It was brought to my attention a long time ago. Back then, the women had a lower role in society. Like the women didn't go to schools. You know, only the men and the rabbis, etc., etc. But Jesus' mother was so, first of all, she had to be an intelligent woman. She was picked by God to bear Jesus. And she put forth effort, her ability, plus with the Holy Spirit leading, to teach him, which meant that she was versed in scripture also. And she was able to teach Jesus. But back then, the women weren't necessarily allowed to spend time studying the Bible, studying the Holy Scriptures. But for some reason, she had, and she did, and as she learned, she taught Jesus. And that surprised me, because you think about it, back then, lady, go cook dinner. You know, that was the bottom line. And that was generally that. But for some reason, Mary was able to arise above those circumstances and educate her son, pointing him to Christ.
Amen. Her instructions were what gave him that good foundation.
Right.
Any comments? If not, we will go to Wednesday. Hatred against the Holy One. So here we have John 7:19, the verse that I had wanted to read previously. And the question is, what did Jesus perceive in the rabbis, and what question did he put to them? John 7:19 says, "Did not Moses give you the law, and yet none of you keepeth the law? What go ye about to kill me?" So far they haven't, instigated that they want to kill him. But he was able to read their hearts and call them out on that. He didn't stay silent on this. He was like, how do you justify the fact that you want to kill me, saying that I go against the principles, yet I have just shown you that I understand all of the principles. In the note, Alan, if you want to read the note, Wednesday, okay? Estamos en miércoles.
Sí, sí, sí.
Jesús dio a los rabinos. I want to read in Spanish. The first one? Dice, Jesús dio a los rabinos una evidencia de su divinidad, demostrándoles que leía su corazón. Desde que había curado al paralítico en Bethesda, había estado maquinando su muerte. Así violaban ellos mismos la ley que profesaban defender. ¿No os dio Moisés la ley?, dijo él, y ninguno de vosotros hace la ley. ¿Por qué me procuráis matar?
Thank you. So that was how Jesus called them out on their thoughts and of course on their behavior, because they were preparing to find ways to kill him at this point. And the question B, in their response to Christ, of what did the rabbis accuse him, and how did he respond? to read John 7:20 and 23, Brother Adam?
Okay. The people answered and said, Thou hast a devil. Who goeth about to kill thee? Jesus answered and said unto them, I have done one work, and ye are marveled. Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, but not because of it of Moses, but of the fathers. And ye on the Sabbath day circumcise a man. Let's see, 23. If a man on the Sabbath day receives circumcision, that the law of Moses should not be broken, are ye angry at me, because I have made a man every whit whole on the Sabbath day?
Thank you. So here they ask him, we're like, oh, like you're crazy. Why are you saying that we want to kill you? Like, I mean, maybe we do, but like you don't know that.
You're right, right.
And Christ said, no, you have that in your hearts. You want to kill me because of something that I did on the Sabbath. So if you remember, the man at Bethesda that he healed on the Sabbath. So he's telling them, you're angry at me because supposedly I've broken the law of Moses by doing that, but how many times have you made someone undergo circumcision on the Sabbath day when that is as well breaking the Sabbath? You have done work on the Sabbath. You can wait till Sunday, but you do it. You choose to do it. So that was his contradiction, his response to the Pharisees. So explain the broad significance of Christ's next warning. So in John 7:24, he says, so he continues this thought, that they have been going back and forth. He says, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. So
Amen.
we see that all